What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. Welcome to another episode of the Alaria Masterclass podcast. I'm here in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. So glad you decided to join us today. We are Alabama's only real estate podcast, and a lot of times we bring on some local guests, and every once in a while we love to get on national guests that can kind of provide us with a little bit of perspective from real estate kind of on a national stage. And today is no different. We have the one and only, the great Rod Khleif with us today. How are you doing today, Rod?
Man, that sounded like a circus introduction there, brother.
I've never heard that.
Thanks for having me on the show, Brian. I'm excited to be here, buddy. Let's kick some butt today.
Let's just jump right on in because, well, first, I don't want to butcher it, so I want to let you do it, Rod. Tell everybody who you are and kind of what you do in real estate.
Sure. So, well, I've owned 2,000 houses and multiple apartment buildings in 3 states that I've owned long term. But let me go back to where I started because it really, I think it'll add value to your listeners. And particularly, if you're interested in real estate, I think my story will possibly resonate. So, I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old. And we didn't have much money. In fact, I had to wear clothes from the Goodwill. My brother and I immigrated, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado. And again, we didn't have much money, and we had to eat expired food, drink powdered milk, and that's all we could afford. That's what we knew. We had love, and I know a lot of people had it harder than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And my mom, to have money, babysat kids and in our home. And with her babysitting money, when I was 14, she bought the house across the street from us for $30,000. And then a couple years later, just before I graduated from high school, she told me she'd made 20 grand on it, that it had gone up in value 20,000 while she slept. And I'm like, what? I'm getting into real estate. Okay. So back then you could get your real estate broker's license through education. Now you have to have some experience, but I got my broker's license like within days of turning 18.
So Rod, real quick, I'm sorry. What year is this? Like how long ago is this?
1978.
Okay.
1978. I was born in 60.
Okay.
So yes, I have socks older than you, my friend.
I'm not that young.
Anyway, so I got into real estate, thought I was going to be rich. Of course, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I got a bus bench down at the end of the street with my picture on it. Thought, made my mom proud, but didn't do me any business at all. But I made maybe 8,000 my first year, 1978. In 1979, I might have made 10,000. But my third year, I made over 100,000, which back, in what was that, 80, that was some significant money. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the psychology of success and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff you talk about on your show here and what I talk about on my podcast as well. And so, I listened to what he told me and I took action and that's what happened. And so, fast forward to 2006. In 2006, at that point, I'd owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long-term, a few dozen apartment complexes. I was in Florida at the time. I had 800 houses, multiple apartment buildings. My net worth in 2006 went up $17 million while I slept. A little more than the 20,000 my mom did when she bought that one house. So, if you want to do the math on that, which of course I did, it was $8,000 an hour on a 40-hour work week.
Wow.
And, and I got a big head. Okay. How when you think you're really good at something, you get a big head. And I thought I was a real estate god. And, whenever you do that, God or the universe or whatever you believe in has a habit of smacking you down. Well, that was 2008 for me. In 2008, I lost it all. And I lost it all for a lot of reasons. But the biggest one was my single family infrastructure. I had I was 2 hours north and 2 hours south and everywhere in between, and logistically very difficult to manage. And,
so you were managing them yourself then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had my own property management company. I've managed my own for decades, but so I imploded, and that was what I affectionately call a $50 million seminar. I don't call them failures. I call them seminars because you learn from them.
So, Rod, let me just interject because I think your story is fascinating, but I want to try to get some of the details here.
Sure.
Because what I've heard, I wasn't in real estate then. I started in real estate in 2012, so I'm relatively new to this.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, I've talked to a lot of people who are in it and doing great and doing incredible things before the crash. But what I've heard is the people that had the rentals were the ones that escaped, the ones that did well. You had the rentals. What happened?
Let me explain. Yeah, let me explain why I imploded. I imploded because my model required a sale or a refinance on occasion of a house. And the reason it required that is if you can imagine 800 houses spread over 4-hour drive. So what is it? 100 miles each direction. So let me give you some examples of why it was logistically a mistake. And that is, so let's say I have a maintenance call at one of my houses. So I send a maintenance man. Okay, every house is different. So it's not like an apartment complex where you can stockpile parts. Every house has different electrical, different plumbing, different appliances. Everything's different.
Right.
So I send a maintenance man. Maybe it's a half-hour drive. Then he goes and sees what's wrong. Then he's got to find a Lowe's or a Home Depot, goes there. So maybe another hour has transpired. Then he comes back, works on the repair, realizes he needs something else, goes back and gets that. What would take 30 minutes in an apartment complex takes all day at a house. And you multiply that times 800, and it massively impacts your cash flow. So that's number one. Number two, Florida has very high property taxes because there's no personal income tax here. So that impacts cash flow. I'm along the coast. Flood insurance, wind insurance, lots of things like that, which impact cash flow. In 2006, I was at a 30% loan to value, okay, on my portfolio. I only owed 30 cents on every dollar, okay? That's how good of a of an equity position I had.
Okay.
But I was focused on the equity instead of the cash flow. And that's why, I wrote a book about this topic, because what was fascinating is I couldn't hold my houses together. And if I hadn't cross-collateralized my apartment complexes with packages of houses, I'd still have the apartments because the apartments cash flowed just fine. They contracted like everything did, but they would have made it. But I had cross-collateralized, so I lost it all. Now, listen, I'm not bemoaning that. I'm back to the success I had before, but it wasn't fun. Okay, it was very unpleasant for me. I thought I was set for life. I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold were going to keep Florida recession-proof. Well, little did I know that Florida was really ground central for the crash. But that's why it didn't work. And so my message in my book, which I'll show those of you that are watching. I've got a free book that I give away for free, and I'll tell you people how to get it later. But the point is, the reason I wrote the book was that the title is, how to create lifetime cash flow through multifamily properties. But the subtitle is the new rules of real estate investing, i.e., the new rules are focus on cash flow, not value. That's the big mistake I made. Okay.
Wow.
And so if your listeners get anything out of this, listen, I'm not against buying houses for cash flow as long as you keep them geographically very close together. If you spread out, you're making a huge mistake. And I'm definitely against turnkey purchases, but that's another topic.
No. We need to talk about that because that affects Birmingham. That's huge. Okay. I'm glad you led into that because I think we got a little bit of time. We can talk about a lot of stuff here, but I do want to talk about turnkey because I think that's important. But first, let me ask you this though. Before we do, you said logistically, what if I have property management? Let's just use the state of Alabama, where Birmingham is kind of our central location, but an hour and a half north is Huntsville and an hour and a half south is Montgomery, maybe an hour each way we got, Anniston and Tuscaloosa, stuff like that. Why can't I have properties in all these areas if I have specific property managers that are based in those areas? Would that solve it?
Well, all I can tell you is the expenses are going to be much higher with single family than they are with multifamily.
Why?
Let's say you've got 10 houses in one of those markets, okay? If you have a 10-plex, you can have localized management. You can have somebody on site that gets some free rent for eyes on the property, so you've got better eyes on the asset. Number two, If you've got a maintenance issue, you can stockpile your parts because you're going to have the same appliances, the same windows, the same doors, the same locks, the same plumbing, the same guts for your faucets, all of these things that you can stockpile. So again, your maintenance expenses are going to be much lower. It just logistically, I'm a proponent for doing multifamily because frankly, in my opinion, it's safer with this coming contraction. It's safer based on my personal experience. It's not just safer, but it's a faster way to ramp more quickly. You get further faster buying a 10-plex than you do buying some houses. And that's just my opinion. And frankly, it's about the same amount of work. Okay. So at the very least, those of you that are young that are listening, if you're thinking about buying that first property, for God's sakes, don't buy a house. Go buy a 4-plex, okay? You can get FHA financing, you can move into it, and you can start your investing career. But I'm a proponent for multifamily based on my own personal experience. I've interviewed guys on my show that have dozens of houses that are doing just fine. If you get good property management companies in each one of those markets in that scenario you just described, you might be okay. I will tell you, I've had some bad experience with property management companies that manage single family. I had one embezzle $100,000 from me in Memphis. So I think there are economies of scale with multifamily that lend it to be, frankly, in my opinion, more enticing and more lucrative than single family in many situations. But again, it's not a global statement. Some areas have deals in single family, and multifamily is hard to find. It just depends on the market that you're in. But I'm a proponent for multifamily based on my own experience. So,
and I want to touch on a couple of things you mentioned too. But going back to turnkey, what's your issue with turnkey?
Well, listen, I don't like turnkey, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're a passive investor, and those are the kinds of people that get into turnkey properties, they think, well, you know what, this is easy. I get this house, it's already got a renter in it. I've got a management infrastructure that's going to manage it for me, which is all fine and good. But what they fail to realize is the person selling it to you has made the profit. Okay, so you are banking on appreciation, nothing else. Okay, that's number one.
But hold on, let me talk about number one. That's not necessarily true. You're banking on appreciation. A lot of them are buying them for cash flow, right? They're promising 10 to 12%. Fair enough. Yes, they are. They're buying. I'm looking at the whole asset as a whole. So you've got cash flow, you've got appreciation. You've lost instant appreciation. You do,
okay, you can't force appreciation.
For sure.
All you're getting in that case is cash flow and the hopes that the market will go up. So that's number one reason I don't like it.
Gotcha.
Because in that case, if you're going to invest that way, in my opinion, you'd be smarter to get involved in a syndication, somebody that's finding an asset and repositioning it and sharing in the upside. So that's number one. Number two, you are at the mercy of that property management company, okay? And if they are not fantastic, you're going to have a real problem. Ask me how I know. I mean, I've interviewed people on my show that have bemoaned their turnkey story, okay? And again, if you have a house and it's empty, you're 100% vacant. And that's why I like multifamily. Yep. You've got a 4-plex and you've got a unit empty. You're probably still cash flowing. You got a duplex. You're probably still close to cash flowing. So, that's why I'm a proponent for multifamily. But back to turnkey. Because of my own experiences with out of town property management companies, if you haven't got a killer property management company, and you've just got one house in their portfolio, first of all, you have no leverage, okay? Right. Who are you to them? Correct. I mean, if they're managing a few hundred properties, you have zero leverage with them.
Correct.
Maybe you get to 10 to 20 of them, then you've got a little bit of leverage, but it's just a place I wouldn't want to put myself in, and based on my personal experiences.
So and I agree with you, because it sounds like that your number one hang up is, and we've already talked about this in 2 or 3 topics, is management. Management ends up being key to make the whole thing run. And when you can place a manager who, like you said, lives on site. So I do have a multifamily. I have a mobile home park, a 59-space mobile home park.
Nice.
And I want to kind of tie in the last 2 things we talked about, where you start talking about economies of scale, getting further, faster. When I bought the mobile home park, it was like my whole goal was to let my wife quit her job. She was a pharmacist. She made a lot of money, but I wanted to replace her income with our cash flow. And the main way we were able to do that is the mobile home park, because, like you said, economies of scale just went. I mean,
that was one purchase.
One purchase.
Okay, not 59 houses.
That's correct.
Not and that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
And that's and your listeners get just that from this conversation, it's not that much more work. In some cases, it's less work, because with a single family or even a plex, frankly. And by the way, guys, multifamily 2 to 4 units is considered residential.
Right.
5+ units is commercial. If you're buying 2 to 4 units, they are going to dissect you for that loan. They're going to, really scrutinize you personally. Where you go 5+ units, you can put a team together. You can satisfy the requirements of liquidity, net worth, and experience by bringing one person on that's got those qualifications. And it's called a sponsor. And it's just a fantastic way to get rolling in this business.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's awesome.
So let me, if you don't mind, let's digress for a second and get back to.
That's what we're about to do. Let me teach. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to share what happened to me in 2008 and how I recovered from it, because I think it'll add value to your listeners. I mean, I know they've heard tons of stuff about real estate, but let's talk about mindset for a minute. If you don't mind, if you'll humor me, if you're okay with that.
I don't want to humor you. I want to go this direction. I really and truly want to go this direction, because we're gonna get the information at the end on how we can get your book, where we can list your podcast. How we're gonna do all that. Yes, talk. So you went reading your one sheet. You went $50 million in debt.
No. I was.
Or you lost $50 million.
No, I lost $50 million in real assets, equity. That was my equity position, real, not inflated, not conservative, real equity. I lost $50 million. That was what my net worth was. But, the bottom line is, a lot of people don't recover from setbacks like that, but we all have them. And so how did I recover from that? How did I recover from thinking I was set for life? I mean, I lived in an $8 million mansion on the beach. I mean, I thought I was set for life, and it all imploded. So how I recovered was remembering what I wanted and why I wanted it. So, I take my coaching students, and even at my live events, I take people through a goal-setting workshop. And what I'd like to do is just take 2 minutes and share it with your listeners, because it's a real powerful exercise. Because if you don't know what it is you want and why you want it, you're never going to get anywhere, okay? So this is foundational. Forget real estate for a minute. How are you going to take action, push through fear, get uncomfortable to take action if you don't know what it is you want and why you want it? So let's just give me a minute on that. So what I suggest my students do is to pick an hour when they're in a high energy state. Don't do it right after a meal or when you're tired. Pick an hour when you're in a high energy state. Sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Not just of course, the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the planes, the jet skis, the motorcycles, all the stuff. Okay. Write all that stuff down. Write down, how much money you want in the bank. Write down, what your net monthly cash flow number is, your target number, and do a short-term one and a long-term. Do small goals and large goals. Imagine that if you write it down, you're going to get it, which is not outside the realm of reality, okay? That triggers something called your reticular activating system, which is that filter in your brain that filters out all the stuff that's coming at you all the time, so you hone in on what's important. Writing it down starts that process. And for an example of the reticular activating system is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. You buy them and you see them everywhere. And they were always there before. It's just your brain paying attention now. So write down everything you could possibly want in life. Take the lid off your brain. Pretend it's Christmas. If you write it down, you're going to get it. And then once you've written down all the stuff, write down what you want to learn. Don't just stop with the stuff, okay? Write down what you want to learn. Me, I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. I just got a gift from a friend of mine for a free lesson. I want to learn how to play the drums. What do you want to learn? Then write down who you want to help, okay? What do you want to stand for? Who do you want to become, okay? It's bigger than just your stuff. So it's not just the stuff. Write down everything you want to do, be, or have. Once you've got that done, and by the way, those of you that are analytical, don't analyze it. You can always scratch it out later. Just write everything down. Once you can't think of another thing, then it's not real till you make it measurable. So put a time limit on each one of those goals. Put how many years it's going to take you to accomplish it, a 1, a 3, a 5, a 10, or a 20. Remembering that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in a decade. Okay, so keep that in mind. Put a number by each goal. And there's just a couple more steps. Then I want you to take your number one goal, the juiciest one. And if there's 3 or 4 that are equally exciting, just pick one. but pick your number one goal. Put it on another piece of paper. Then pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on another piece of paper. So you've pulled 4 goals off and you've put them on another piece of paper. Now, this is where most people stop. You need to sit down and write down why those goals are an absolute must, okay? Use powerful language. Words are very powerful, so I can show my family what an amazing life looks like, so I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, with whoever I want. Write it down. Whatever's going to juice you, write it down. But also take it one step further. Put some pain in there. Because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my family. So I don't fail in life. So, whatever. Make it painful, because that will drive you as much as the positive. Okay, then the last step is get pictures. Okay, get pictures of your goals. Go on Google, find the pictures that resonate with you. I will show you actually, for those of you that are watching this on YouTube. I know this is going to go on iTunes as well, but I've got a paper planner. In the back of this thing, I've got pictures that I've had in here for 19 years, okay? The first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my children when they were young. Then I've got pictures of the houses that I've wanted, that I've gotten. I live in an incredible compound on the water now. I was in an $8 million mansion that you can actually see from across the bay from where I'm at right now. And then the stuff that doesn't even matter to me anymore. Like I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches, the Lamborghini, the Rolls Royce, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. Okay. And again, this stuff's not even important to me anymore. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm just trying to share with you the value of knowing what it is you want, why you want it, and then putting it in front of you so you focus on it to take action, to get back up when you get your butt kicked, which inevitably you will. You'll have setbacks. This is how you push forward. So hopefully that added some value, my friend.
So, Rod, I'm in agreement with you. There are a lot of people out there that may be listening that are like, what is all this hocus pocus crap? Seriously, why? Tell me the why behind everything that you're saying right now.
All right. Well, let me give you another example. Okay. So I when I got my real estate broker's license, I was 18. I just want to give you some examples of how I used this to manifest things in my life. Okay. And I didn't even know what it was I was doing at the time. So I wanted a Corvette. So I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. This is way before the internet. And I put that on the visor of my 4-door Granada that I had. I thought a realtor had to have a 4-door Granada, 4-door car, ugliest thing you've ever seen. So I got a picture of a Corvette. I put that on the visor. Within a year, I had that Corvette. This is back when the show Magnum P.I. was out. Okay, Tom Selleck was the actor. He drove a Ferrari 308. I got a picture of that same car because I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within 2 years, I had a Maserati. Looked just like it. And again, I'm just sharing these examples because that's all I can share is my own life. This is not me bragging. This doesn't even interest me anymore, okay? But it's great as an example of the power of what I'm talking about, okay? I'm the guy. I'll give you one more car example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I told you I got one. Well, I had the posters in my room, the girls with the bikinis, yeah, I'm that guy. I had all the walls covered with pictures of exotic cars, and I always wanted a Lambo, and I got one. And so this stuff works, okay? And I will tell you that, again, it doesn't motivate me anymore. In fact, I'll give you one more example that ties into what motivates me now. I always wanted to live on the beach. I lived in Denver. There's no beach in Denver, and I wanted to live on the beach. And I always visualized living on the beach. And ultimately, I built that $8 million house, on the beach, big giant 3-story house. I mean, just a spectacular home. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I visualized it for 20 years. Again, I knew what I wanted and I got it. And it'll work for anybody listening. But so you can think it's foo-foo, but I'm just telling you this stuff works. In fact, I'll give you another story and then I'll get back to my house story. But Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was broke, looked at it every day, and he buried it with his dad. And then he made it for Dumb and Dumber, one of his first movies, but he buried it with his dad because it was his dad's dream as well. Visualization works. I'll give you one more example. When Epcot Center was built here in Florida, Roy Disney was there. Walt had already died. And a reporter asked Roy, or said to Roy, it's a shame Walt didn't get to see this. And Roy looked at him and said, buddy, the only reason you're seeing this is because Walt saw it. Okay. Visualizing manifests what you want in life. So back to my house story. So I built this giant testament to my ego, which is really what it was, to prove to the world I was good enough. Okay. I'm floating in this pool behind this house 2 months after I finished it. And I mean, spectacular waterfall from the second floor into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get in. I'm floating in this pool at night. It's changing colors. It had fiber optic lights. I mean, this house was magnificent. The fish tank in it was 150 grand. I mean, it's just an incredible house. But I'm floating in it, looking up at this thing that I wanted for 20 years, and I got depressed. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I've achieved this incredible goal, and I'm depressed. And that's the reason I'm sharing this is I want to share this last message with your listeners. Two things were happening. One was you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. And I didn't have a vision for the future. So that was one thing that was going on. But the second thing that was going on was there's a big difference between success and fulfillment. And I was unfulfilled. I was focused on Rod. I was focused on proving the world I was somebody, that I could be somebody. And I was focused on me. And, luckily back then I got introduced to Tony Robbins. I spent 20 years with Tony after that, but Tony fed people for the holidays. So that year when I went and saw him at an event, I got inspired by that. And my brother and I decided to feed 5 families. This is back in 2000. And the third family changed my life. We've got these big baskets of food for Christmas. Actually, it was for Thanksgiving. We do it for Christmas now, but it's for Thanksgiving. We brought turkeys, big boxes of food, went up to this door. And this place was one of these shotgun houses where you walk into the living room, you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which has the bathroom off it. And there was a lady with 5 kids in this one bedroom shack. And the wife came out and she saw the food. The mom came out. The husband had left a few days earlier. The mom came out, saw the food, started crying. Her kids came out. Most of them started crying. I started crying and I was hooked. And I'm sharing this because I will tell you, in the last 18 years, I've now fed 60,000 children for the holidays here in Sarasota and Bradenton. I've given tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to the local children. I've done thousands of teddy bears to the local police departments for the officers to put in their cars when they encounter a child in distress. And it's kind of cool.
Wow.
It was something on the news a couple of days ago, and there was a child they'd found. They didn't know who his parents were, and he was holding one of our bears, which was really cool. We validated what we were doing. But I don't share this, again, to brag, only to tell you, and those of you that are listening that want success, I know you do, you want success, financial success, whatever that means to you. Success without fulfillment is not success. I've interviewed people on my show, my podcast, that are billionaires, that are mega millionaires, that are not happy because they're totally focused on success and just on themselves instead of spreading love and giving. So I invite you that are listening, you don't have to do anything as grandiose as I did. I don't care if you help a family, you help an elderly person, you buy the person behind you in line Starbucks a cup of coffee. Do something to give back, and it'll add a richness to your life that you won't get from the financial success. And frankly, like I said, financial success without the other is not success. Yeah.
So I think it's Tony Robbins that even said, the secret to living is giving.
No question. That's his line.
Yep. And so you mentioned that name, talk about Tony Robbins. What was that like being with him?
Tony blew me away, and it's not so much about Tony, it's about his technology. Tony's a great guy. I mean, I was in his $100,000 a year mastermind, his platinum partnership, and I highly recommend masterminds. I have my own, and I made about $3 or $4 million as a direct result of the relationships I made in that particular mastermind. I spend $65,000 a year now in 3 different masterminds because I believe in them. But the point is, being around Tony. In fact, I'm going to one of Tony's events in December, Date with Destiny. I've been to that event probably 40 times, 40, okay? And the reason I go is because I'm working on it. I'm evolving, okay? I'm continually growing. And I will tell you, those of you listening, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're flatlined and plateaued, you're dying, okay? Growth is a human need, and you have to continually be growing. So I go to this event because I always learn something new. I always pick something up, and it's like a gift I give to myself. But I just started following him around to different events because I was just, always so blown away by the impact it had on every aspect of my life. And I gladly give a shout out to him. There's nothing in it for me, but if you have an opportunity to see him, give yourself that gift. But, then I was on his team for about 8 years, and just life-changing stuff. I mean,
Wow.
Again, your mindset and your psychology is 80% of your success in anything, in your relationships with your significant other, with your children, with your business, with your health. It's your mindset that impacts all of that. That's why on my podcast, I interview people like you do, but I also do a little 8-minute clip, 5-minute clip once a week about the psychology of success, about goal setting, about taking responsibility, about pushing through fear, about having courage, about, energy, all these different things that are frankly more important than the real estate. And that's, and that's probably why I've had 3.5 million downloads on my show, just because I think people really resonate with that.
Totally.
And so I love talking about it. I think that's obvious, and I'm
Because
sure, and yeah, I can tell you embrace that stuff too, man. You're high energy and motivated.
It's obviously had such an impact on your life as well. But talk about the moment because it sounds like you kind of were doing that all along since the very first.
I didn't know what it was I was doing though. It was like when the movie The Secret came out. About the law of attraction. I sit there, and those of you who haven't watched that, you should get it. I think it's like free on YouTube now. I give it to my coaching students as a gift. But when I sat there and I watched that, I'm like, holy cow, this is what I've been doing my whole life, is attracting these things into my life. Like with the pictures I was talking about, like you can see behind me. Now, those of you on iTunes can't see behind me, but on YouTube, you can see, I've got my vision boards right there on the floor. Okay. And I have a vision board that's my gratitude board you see right there. But behind that, I've got vision boards for the different things I want in my life right now because they work. Okay. I mean, I'm in a multi-million-dollar home, again, not to brag, but because I do this stuff and it works. So those of you that are analytical or foofy and thinking, this is all woo-woo stuff, well, I beg to differ, my friend. That's all I can say, because this stuff really does work. You have to hone in on what you want and why you want it and have it top of mind. That's how you push through.
So at what point, Rod, did you actually change in your mind that you were doing it all along, but at what point did you kind of realize, you know what, this is working and this is the reason why it's working, but now I can start to leverage it in such a way where I'm not going after the Lamborghini and the big mansion anymore?
That was pretty much a life epiphany for me when I realized life did not revolve around Rod, and more importantly, I didn't have to prove to the world that I was good enough. We all have these things that happen to us in our childhood that impact, our lives, and very often they create limiting beliefs or belief systems. And in my case, I got picked on like when I was 6 years old. We immigrated here. I didn't speak English, and I was very shy. I was very tall. I got chased home from school by bullies every day. My mom, God bless her, would send me to school on show and tell with these leather shorts that the Germans wear for Oktoberfest and the wooden shoes that the Dutch wear. So you can just imagine that was like crack cocaine for the bullies. And so, that impacts a kid. And then, I remember being humiliated on the playground. I had this crush on this girl, and God, I thought she was the most beautiful thing ever. And she found out about it. So she comes up to me with 20 or 30 kids behind her and just embarrasses me publicly. And as a result of all that, I came up with this limiting question, which was, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which presupposed what? That I wasn't. And so, I was so focused on success, it cost me my first family. I'll just be candid. I lost my wife, and I mean, and I was so focused on success that I would come home every day to this mansion on the beach, and I would play with my kids, but I was distracted because I just felt like I had to prove to the world I was enough. And that's my biggest regret in life, frankly. Yeah. And I don't want any of you listening to give up on what's most important for your need to achieve financial success, because I'm sure what I'm saying is resonating with some of you, this need to prove to the world. And so don't give up, don't have that kind of a regret with your wife or your husband or your children because you're so focused on success.
Right.
So I had that epiphany, realized that, I don't have to prove anything. Realize that living is about giving, that anything you want in life, if you give it, you get it. Love, happiness, joy, money. If you teach people like you and I do, we learn. I mean, we learn exponentially as a result of giving. Right. So I came to that realization. I mean, late in life, I was 40. I'm embarrassed that it took me that long, but it did. And thank God it happened for some people. And again, I've interviewed mega millionaires that are in their 60s and 70s that still haven't got it. They're just unhappy because they haven't evolved really. I think it's an evolution. That's my opinion.
So for the last little bit of time that we have, Rod, I do want to actually, I think everything you're saying is spot on, incredible stuff, guys. This is stuff that you're just going to have to go back, rewind, listen to again, get into a quiet place and listen to some of this stuff, because you can't really drive down the road and really write down some of the stuff. I've already written down a page of notes.
That's kind of you to say that, buddy. I appreciate that.
But definitely do that. But Rod, for the people out there that do want the kind of actionable steps, I'm a big believer in step 1, step 2, step 3 types of things.
Let's talk about multifamily real estate.
Let's do it.
Okay?
Let's do it.
And let me just say this, okay? 200-page free book. All your listeners have to do is text Rod to 41411 and we'll send it to you. Okay, it's 200 pages, like a textbook, okay, about this business. There's no fluff in here. I mean, it's an incredible resource, so just go get it, okay? If you're serious about multifamily real estate investing, you need to immerse yourself in the business. You need to be going to your RIA group. You need to be around people that are doing this. I've got a closed Facebook group with 16,000 people on it. Go get in there and meet other people that are doing this. It's all your listeners have to do is go to multifamilycommunity.com, direct link to that group. But let me give you some actionable steps, okay? Obviously, the first thing is you've got to have the foundational stuff I just told you about. You got to do the goals. Don't keep them in your head. Write them down. Do that piece.
Do not skip that, guys.
No,
do not skip that step.
No, otherwise you won't follow through. The bottom line is you won't follow through. But really in the multifamily space, and I'm not sure we have enough time for me to really fully educate here, but the bottom line is you have to pick a market. You have to create your investment criteria. You can't be a generalist. So you got to pick what size units you're going to buy and where you're going to buy. And then you have to put a team together. But that's the beautiful thing about multifamily real estate is it's a team sport, okay? So you make relationships, which is why I suggest the closed Facebook group, your RIA group. You get around people that are doing this because you guys all know you are the 5 people you hang around with. So if that group of people is not empowering you, is not motivating you, is not pushing you, get out. Find a group that is, okay? And that's get around like-minded people. So that's number one. But what's great about commercial multifamily, is it's a team sport. So if you don't have income, if you don't have the net worth, if you don't have the experience, you align with people that do. You can find one person that owns 100 units and say, listen, if I find a deal, will you get involved with me and get in that kind of alliance, and you can go take down a larger property. Okay, yeah. Especially if you've got to be inspired, you've got to be passionate about this business. You got to learn to love it. If you don't love it, associate pleasure with it and learn to love it. Because if you don't love it, you're never going to be good at it. So again, if you're listening to real estate thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to like this, start associating pleasure with it, because you can reposition that thought process. I like to equate it for hunting for buried treasure, because that's really what it is. You're hunting for deals, okay? So, use something like that to associate pleasure with it, because if you're passionate about it and you learn it, you're going to influence people to invest with you. And that's what's great about commercial multifamily. It's a team sport. So if you're passionate, you put together what's called a sample deal package. And we just went through this with my coaching students on my last coaching call. You put together a sample deal package that shows a deal, and you say, listen, if I find, even if you haven't done one yet, you say, if I find a deal like this, are you interested? And if someone holds still long enough, they need to know what it is you do. Mm-hmm. And you show them that deal package. That's how you get soft commitments for the money. And then if you figure out, how to find the deals, it's not hard to find somebody to sponsor you, which is that person to sign on the debt. Because what's great about multifamily and really high-end real estate in general, high-priced real estate, commercial real estate, is they have what's called non-recourse debt. Right. Meaning, and ask me how I know the difference between recourse and non-recourse. Okay, recourse means they come after you personally. Ask me how I know. And then non-recourse, they don't. If it's non-recourse debt, which is really fantastic debt, it's called agency debt. It's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac financing. If they foreclose, all they take is the property. They don't come after the person personally. So it's very safe debt. So it's not hard to find someone to sponsor your deal if you find a deal, especially if you've been talking it up to your friends and family and associates and you've got the people to invest in the deal.
Right.
It's like a gift to the sponsor. You give them 5 to 10% of the deal to sign on the debt. You can make that happen. So again, it's education, it's building a team, it's making relationships. And one other thing that's really important, and I'm sure you tell people the same thing, and that is don't get into real estate to get rich quick. it is a become very wealthy over time thing.
Totally.
But you put on the hat that this is a long game play.
Yes.
You're building relationships for a lifetime,
Yes.
for decades. Okay. There's nothing else you can buy that someone else pays for, i.e. your tenants. Okay. But you've got to play it for the long game.
For sure.
And so when you're out there making relationships in your target market with brokers and property managers and bankers and contractors and attorneys, associate with people you enjoy talking to, because and make them deep relationships, not surface relationships. Find out how many kids they have, what ball team they like. I mean, that's the kind of relationships you want to have, because they can make you a lot of money. Okay. And you grow together and you help each other. So team sport, build relationships, learn the business, immerse yourself in it, get around other people that are doing it.
Rod,
that's about all we have time for right now. But obviously there's a lot more. But hopefully that'll get people started.
Let me kind of, because I know you're probably going to go a long time on this question, so I'll make it the last question. Is this a bad time to be buying multifamily?
It is a bad time to go in uneducated. Okay, there are a lot of mistakes being made right now. It is a great time to learn the business. It's a great time to build your team, to find people with money, to make relationships with brokers, to educate yourself, to build your competence, which will equate to your confidence, which will equate to your ability to influence. There is no better time to get into the business, because when this market contracts,
right,
there will be unbelievable opportunities. Okay,
right, but
you got to have the money. Now, is it a bad time to buy right now? We're buying deals right now, but you're looking at 100 properties to find one. Really digging in on 100 deals. So, and in fact, I just opened up our deal desk, because I've opened it up to students. If somebody finds a multifamily deal and they want us to get involved, we're raising money for deals. We're doing a $10 million one right now in Dayton, Ohio. But it's rodsdealdesk.com, and you can submit deals to us, and we will get involved if it's a good enough deal. But
sure.
But the point is, a lot of mistakes being made right now by newbies, by people that are dabbling. Okay. Guys, those of you listening, you do not dabble in this business. You don't dabble in the stock market. You don't dabble when you start your own business. You have got to immerse yourself, study this, learn it. Dabblers get crushed, okay? And there are a lot of mistakes being made right now by people that don't know what the hell they're doing out there trying to buy deals. So, again, that's one of the reasons I opened up my deal desk. Also, I'd like to have more deals myself, but we will help you if you find a deal, if you really find a deal. Now, don't just send us a LoopNet listing. LoopNet.com is where most of the commercial stuff is. You have to do some work. But the point is, it's a dangerous time if you're not educating yourself. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Are there deals? Absolutely. I mean, we've got 2 or 3 working right now that are phenomenal deals. But, a lot of mistakes being made.
Gotcha. So, guys, I just did it myself. Text 41411. Text Rod to 41411 to get the free book.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, I've got a live event coming in Atlanta, which is right a hop, skip, and a jump from you. 3-day live event, November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Now, it's not marketed yet, but since I'm on your show here,
let's market it.
Well, it's not marketed. You can't buy tickets yet. You can only buy my Chicago event tickets. I'm going to be in Chicago, August 24th, 25th, and 26th. But the tickets are freaking $200 for 3 days, and it's not a sell-a-thon. It's just me. Okay, for 3 days.
November 2nd.
There's no outside speakers coming in to sell you stuff. It's just me. But I teach you how to buy an apartment building in 90 days. And again, the lowest level tickets are $200. I mean, you can spend $1,000 to have dinner and lunch and cocktails with me, but $200 you can get in. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Rod, so, it's in my
by the
calendar.
way, let me give the email. The domain for that is multifamilybootcamp.com. Now, right now, there's only the Chicago event, but if you call my office, we'll hook you up with the Atlanta. Because, I mean, like I say, that's right next door to you, right? Yeah, it sure is.
2-hour drive.
Right, okay.
It's in my calendar. I'm there. I'm coming.
Awesome, brother. Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to meeting you, man.
Yeah,
great.
So one of my very good friends, I don't know if you know Kevin Easterly.
Oh, sure. Kevin's one of my students.
So Kevin is the one who told me about you.
Kevin is in my coaching program. He's one of my warriors. He's a great guy, and he's killing it too, by the way.
He's crushing it. He's one of my good friends. He's the one that told me about you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, Kevin's a good man. I love Kevin. Yeah. So, yeah, well, listen, I'd love to have you there. We covered a lot of ground.
Totally.
If you ever want to get me back on and really dig into the mechanics of multifamily, we could spend an hour on that. But but hopefully we added some value today,
So
my friend.
so what we might do is I'll go to the event in November, and then we'll touch base after that, and I'll be a lot more educated, and I can ask you a lot better questions, and maybe we'll get you on at the beginning of next year.
Would love it, brother.
Maybe even get you to Birmingham. What do you think about that?
Wouldn't that be something? I have family there, so I have no excuse not to show up.
There you go. Rod, I can't thank you enough for your time. We're going to put all your information in the show notes, guys, so don't feel like you got to break your neck to pull over. All that will be available to you, so just kind of
one last thing, rodkhleif.com, my website. I've got a ton of free stuff there. Other books that are free, videos, articles, just incredible content. rodkhleif.com. A lot of value there. I'm all about adding as much value as I can.
So, guys, if you have any interest whatsoever in the multifamily space, at least get plugged into the network. At least get on in the Facebook community, get the free book. At least get plugged into the network and to start to educate yourself, because there's so many different routes, so many different avenues you can go in real estate. You really need to choose one, or maybe two. If you're new, you need to choose one and stick to it, study it. Don't be... I love what you said, Rod. Dabblers get crushed. I see it every single day in this business. Dabblers get crushed. Don't be that guy that's trying to dabble in tax liens and single family and be a broker and do all this stuff. Pick one thing, and if this interests you at all, guys, go and get plugged into the community first, and then November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, right over in Atlanta. When that link comes available, Rod, we're going to put that on our page as well.
It's multifamilybootcamp.com. We just won't have that marketed until after the August event in Chicago. But if somebody wants to inquire ahead of time, they can just call the number that's there on the screen. Yeah. And by the way, back to your thing about dabbling. I give copies of Think and Grow Rich out, Napoleon Hill's book, and he speaks in there about how you can't be a generalist. It ties right into what you said. You have to be a specialist. Totally. You have to hone in. Yep. Ties right into what you said.
100%. Rod, thank you so much for
absolutely
the
my
information.
Pleasure, my friend. I really enjoyed it, and we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. See you guys next time.
Take care, buddy. See ya.